Welcome back to This Is a Commander channel, where this is a Commander channel, and today I'm going to be talking about Commander, tough rules, and cool interactions, episode 178. Today's episode is going to take a look at, well, at something weird. I've said this for a lot of episodes in the past, that this episode is a doozy, and well, this time, I really do mean it. One of my longtime subscribers gave me quite the puzzler of a scenario, and I think it is a truly unique situation in Magic. If any of you can think of some way to recreate this kind of scenario with different cards, then please do share that down in the comments, as I would love to find other crazy ways of pulling this off. This episode is going to be very dense with CR citations, so let's jump right in. His question was this: can you use Spellweaver Volute, Captain Rex Nebula, and Bludgeon Brawl to, well, do some weird stuff? So let's see what those cards say. Spellweaver Volute is an enchantment aura, and to give you an idea of how weird it is, it's from the set Future Sight, a set that is known and prolific for having some of the most wild card designs in Magic history, effects that even rival a lot of cards from unsets. Anyhow, it says, enchant instant card in a graveyard. Yes, in a graveyard, an instant, not a permanent. Fun fact, it is the first card in Magic to be able to enchant something that is neither a permanent or a player. I wonder how many cards can still do that now today. Not many, I imagine. Anyhow, it also says that whenever you cast a sorcery spell, copy the enchanted instant card. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. If you do, exile the enchanted card and attach this aura to another instant card in a graveyard. Then, Captain Rex Nebula is a legendary creature from Unfinity, but it is one of the black border legal cards from Infinity, and he says, at the beginning of combat on your turn, choose target non-land permanent you control. Until end of turn, it becomes a vehicle artifact with base power and toughness, each equal to its mana value, and then there is some more text to it, but it's not important to this video. And then finally, Bludgeon Brawl is an enchantment that says each non-creature, non-equipment artifact is an equipment with equip X, and equipped creature gets plus X plus 0, where X is that artifact's mana value. The question is this: can we cast the Volute, enchanting an instant in a graveyard? Not important as to what it is, the enchantment that it's on, or the instant that it's on, but then using Mr. Nebula to turn that Volute into an artifact equipment, and then, because of the Bludgeon Ball, equip the Volute onto a creature so that when we cast a sorcery, we make a token copy of that creature. So that's the question number one, and then based on that answer to question one, if it's a yes, then what happens from there with the Volute's ability? So let's head to the comprehensive rules and see if the game supports this. We know that if an aura is enchanting something, but then stops enchanting that object, like the object becomes an illegal object for it to enchant or be attached to, or maybe the object changes zones, then as a state-based action, the aura is sent to the graveyard. And by making the Volute into an equipment, it must now follow the rules for equipment, and that says that an equipment can only be attached to creatures. So that's two reasons that the Volute must fall off of the instant in the graveyard that it was attached to. But luckily, it won't go to the graveyard as a state-based action, because Mr. Nebula made it into an artifact equipment, not also an artifact equipment. So it's no longer an aura that is attached to something, that is not attached to something. So that's good so far. So now we attach it to the creature. Nothing weird in the rules about that. But the next weird part is when we get to casting a sorcery and triggering the Volute's ability. The wording on the Volute is this: copy the enchanted instant card. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. And it does specify the enchanted instant card, and it's currently not enchanting something, nor is the something that it's attached to an instant card. So clearly, this is where the scenario falls apart, right? Well, magic is complicated. There are a lot of times in magic where when things refer to things, they actually mean something different. Like when cards refer to themselves by name. We have this rule, these rules, that say that really it just means this object rather than this card name. Some of you that have been watching this series, Tough Rules and Cool Interactions, for a while now, might remember the episode I did on the Indominus Rex and the hidden counters that he can get with a card like Breaker of Creation that has hexproof from each color. And that might look like it's only one hexproof ability, but due to this rule here, what that actually means is that it has 5 different hexproof abilities, one for each of the 5 colors in Magic. So is there a rule like these that help us out in this wild scenario? Well, let's take a look at Comprehensive Rules 303.4M that says, an ability of a permanent that refers to the enchanted object or player refers to whatever object or player that permanent is attached to, even if the permanent with the ability isn't an aura. Volute is a permanent. It does have an ability that says enchanted object, and this rule states that it just cares about that it is attached to. And it even states that the permanent with that ability doesn't need to be an aura. So that seems to check out. I talked with another judge about this, and they agreed with me on this. So if anyone thinks that we are misunderstanding this rule as applied to this situation, I'd love to hear your feedback. But we think it actually does work. But that's not all. We still have to find out how the Volute plays out in the rest of this ability. So let's read the Spellweaver Volute's ability just one more time. And it says, copy the enchanted instant card, which we know really just means to copy the attached object. Then it says you may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. And then it has this part of, if you do, exile the enchanted card and attach this aura to another instant card in a graveyard. So the if you do part is after the part about making a copy of the object and then casting the object. So we'll cross that bridge later. First, what happens to the copy of the object? Well, in Magic, when we make a copy of something, the copy is made in the same zone as the OG object, the original object. If you make a copy of a spell on the stack, the copy of that spell is made on the stack. Some of you all might remember, if you've, again, been around for a while, episode 109, which is one of my favorites with how weird it is, in which case the copy of the object is created in the graveyard. So what about with this equipment version of the Volute? It's attached to a creature that's on the battlefield, so that means that is the zone the copy is going to be created in. But what actually is created? It's not a copy of the spell. No, we can see the wording on the Volute says to copy that card, not that spell. This is similar how Isochron's Scepter makes a copy of the exiled card, and then you choose to cast that copy of the card, at which point it becomes a spell on the stack. So we have a copy of a creature card, and it exists on the battlefield. But what is it? The Volute didn't say to make a token copy of the card, and it isn't an actual card, but just a copy of it. So what is it? Off to the comprehensive rules we go, and here are 3 different CR citations. The first 2 sections deal with effects that make tokens in some way, and CR 111.13 is of note here. My very first video in this entire series was actually covering this rule, as the card Double Major had recently come out, and I noticed a lot of players were messing it up, and they were having cards like Doubling Seasoned and Parallel Lives increase the number of tokens that they got from the Double Major resolving, and that video explains why that does not interact the way that they thought it did. I think it would help to apply here in a similar way, but the main rule to focus on is that third one, CR 403.3, that says, permanents exist only on the battlefield. every object on the battlefield is a permanent. So when you resolve the ability from the Volute, it makes a copy of the object it's attached to. In this case, that object is a creature card, and that OG creature was on the battlefield, which means that's the zone the copy of the card is made in. So based on our interpretation of the rules, at this point, you just have a token on the battlefield as a marker to represent that copy of the creature card. It's not being created, as we clearly don't see the word create in the effect of the Volute, but you can just stop there and it will be a creature token now. While it wasn't created, it would still trigger cards like Garruk's Uprising and Impact Tremors, but not cards like the Great Henge or Guardian Project, because they care about non-token things. But there is still more on the Volute's ability. It lets us cast the copy of the card, and usually we do that from places like the hand, exile, library, or graveyard, but there is nothing in the CR restricting us from casting a spell from the battlefield. The CR for cast is found in 601.2, and it says that to cast a spell is to take it from where it is, usually the hand, put it on the stack, and pay its cost, so that will eventually resolve and have its effect. And then there's a little bit more to the rule as well, but there's also steps to the actual act of casting the spell, but nowhere that I can see does it say anything restricting us from casting a spell from the battlefield. So maybe you have cards out like Zendikar Resurgent or Beast Whisperer that care about you casting a creature spell, so you could do that, and when the spell resolves, it would result in a spell becoming a token on the battlefield, but not created, just being a token. At this point, we try to resolve the rest of the Volute. We exile the enchanted card, in this case the attached object, which is the creature, but then we run into another weird thing, as we're now instructed to attach the Volute to another instant card in a graveyard, but because it isn't an aura and is still just an equipment, it cannot be done. That's an impossible task. So it will just stay there on the battlefield as an equipment until the end of turn, and then Mr. Nebula's ability wears off and it stops being an artifact equipment. Then SBAs will be a bummer. They'll step in and see that it is an aura not attached to anything. So it goes to graveyard. Now, is this practical? No, not at all. But is it really cool? I think so. I think this is really, really cool. I actually really want to build a deck around pulling this off and then just maybe populating that token. But from there, I don't care. I just got to pull this off in a game, and I think it'd be really cool to potentially explain quickly to people why this actually works. I do welcome any critique from anyone out there about this. Cards from Future Sight and Unfinity do mean that this is a wild situation, and me and the other judge could be mistaken on how this plays out based on our interpretation of the card's text and the rules. So if you think that's the case, then please share your thoughts on that in the comments. Also, if you can think of some insanely weird, wild, and crazy ways like this to do a massive roundabout way of making creature tokens, or anything really, anything that's just this bonkers in the game, please share that as well. I would love to see some other ways out there, some other crazy way out there tactics that seem like they shouldn't work, but somehow, in a sick, twisted way, they actually do. Anyhow, that's all I've got for today's episode. As always, I hope that all of you have found this video to be entertaining, maybe scary, possibly, at least. And I hope that a few of you have even learned something about the crazy rules in this great, weird, insane game of Magic. Have a good one. Ta-ta.